Let's go. Okay. Well, we want to make sure people are here. We appreciate you guys first and foremost waiting with us. Welcome into the PHNX Rising podcast. We are here after the first game, the first regular season game of Rising's 2023 USL season. I am Mr. Max Simpson. I'm joined by a man who took his sweet ass time getting here. And please, I want you to shame him in the comments on Twitter. Shame, 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 shame. Mr. Owen Evans, we love you. You're in Charleston. How are you doing, my friend? My friend.
Yeah, well, Max, you're looking pretty pixelated there, buddy. It feels like Wi-Fi issues are all around the board. We love it. As Chicano Malo there in the chat pointing out. But yeah, sorry about that, guys. The Wi-Fi at the stadium decided now was a good time to not work very well. And so after a while of trying it, decided to eventually just hop on back to the hotel. And here I am, where the Wi-Fi appears to be significantly more stable.
We gotta love it, man. Well, we appreciate everyone taking the time in the chat. A couple of us were hanging out for those last 15 minutes or so, just chatting up and everything like that. So appreciate everyone who was hanging with us. But oh, yes. Okay, pixelated me. Gotta love it, man. That's so frustrating. Of course, it comes back around to me somehow, some way. Gotta freaking love it. And hey, you know what? Really what it is because all the energy is being drained from my Wi-Fi and going to my beautiful background, which is such a nice update for those who can see through the pixelation. It is nice and bright this time. But we, of course, brought to you by our friends at the DraftKings Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook app. We have a lot to get into. Phoenix rising with the 1-1 draw against Charleston Battery. We got all kinds of batteries here, folks. The D batteries, the AAA, the gosh, I don't even know what all these ones are, but anyway, I know that's not even the right type of battery, but here we are anyway. We are doing our thing. Rising did its thing.
You're telling me, Max, you're telling me that I had to wait for 45 minutes to hear those jokes.
Dude, you gotta love it, man.
I'm going back to the stadium. Bye, guys. Bye.
I bring it to you from across the country, man. No, but Rising took a while to get going. I mean, really kind of, there were some moments in the first half, but really from, I would say, the last 20 minutes of the first half through the first 20 minutes of the second half, it was that 45 minute stretch where Rising did nothing. I'm pretty sure it was not until the 71st minute that they even really crossed into halfway during that second half. And of course, Battery capitalized. Andrew Booth opened the scoring for Charleston in the 60th minute, but out of seemingly nowhere, Danny Trejo equalized in the 74th minute with an assist from the Gabby Torres, who came on. And really, that's kind of how it ended. Super weird game. I don't really know how to feel about it. Owen, how do you feel about it?
I think there are a lot of different ways we can look into this. On the one hand, first game of the season with a team that has been quite heavily changed. In a lot of ways, coming away from not only that, but it's a road game on East with a point, good result. You can also say good result because you just look at the amount of issues this squad has had with injuries, the amount of issues this squad has at the moment in terms of depth, just because people aren't here. I mean, you saw the Carlos Anguiano jersey that was held up. We'll get onto exactly what's going on with Carlos in a bit. But, he wasn't available. Neither was Erickson Gallardo. Neither was Eddie Manjoma. Neither was, Carlos Harvey's off with Panama. I mean, it's a difficult one in a lot of ways. But then at the same time, it felt like for large spells, this squad wasn't really in the game. It felt as though even though Rising would sometimes, make the runs into the final third, there was a real question as to what they did thereafter. And the answer really is very little. It was in a lot of ways far from the kind of performance you'd want to see out of a team that's going to be challenging for a top playoff spot, but it's early. There's still a long way to go. Even just more broadly, the circumstances aren't great. They battled through a lot of adversity today. And it's a point. A point's a point, especially on the road.
Point is point. And, I think it's very telling, right, where we kind of took the poll of the, we put it on Twitter, kind of wanted to get the poll out of there of what people were thinking, how we're going to fare in this match. And it looks like when we had the votes tallied in, we had about 53% of fans saying that they'll win, 26, 27% two tie, and 20% a draw. Well, about 1 out of 4 fans were right tonight with a draw. And that's kind of what I predicted the other day. I honestly forget the score. I might have even said 1-1, but I think it's one of the, not to pat myself on the back, which I would never do, much to what you say. But no, I think it was one of those games where we kept on saying, and we still say, that this team is going to take a while to gel, to get going, and really build out, especially the way they want to play, especially seeing that they are seemingly committed to playing out of the back, even when it is rough, where there's turnovers, where it's almost leading to opposition chances. And even though it wasn't from open play, that's kind of where the goal comes out of. It's a bad ball. It ends up getting built out, going out for a corner, and then Charleston capitalized on the corner. So it did come back to bite them. Could have been a lot worse. Some good goalkeeping by Rocco, but I think, and this is something we'll get into a bit, but it is very telling based on the lineup, based off of what Juan has been saying all preseason, that it's going to take time, and that the squad is committed with the players they have to playing that way.
Yeah, it is going to take time. Look, it's these things don't happen overnight, especially trying to work out how you're going to play the ball out the back. And at a time where I think that Charleston knew, really, that's kind of what the plan is, right? And so Rising's way of getting around that is to have runners going to free up a position whereby, again, those long balls, but those very targeted long balls can become effective, to find spaces behind the opposition lines in that kind of way. And that takes time. That takes time to work out. Charleston came out looking as though they knew exactly that Phoenix Rising were going to be playing it, little tippy-tappy football at times around the back, trying to play out in that regard. And so they were pressing. And Rising didn't really have an answer always for that. There were some sloppy passes that created chances that shouldn't have been created. The real risk, to be perfectly frank, that Rising could have conceded quite a few more goals. I think that Rocco Rios Nova put in a very good display in the Rising goal. And it was not ideal. It was not ideal. I mean, things could have gone worse as well. I'm going to get this one out of the way early. Things could have gone worse. Mo Traore was relatively lucky to stay on the field. There was the incident, right around when the subs were getting ready. Gabby Torres had put his jersey on, wasn't quite on the field at that point, but he takes a guy down and gets away with that a yellow card when he's already on one, and you just look at it and think he should have probably gotten a second yellow for that. Very lucky. In fact, it was sufficiently dubious that I was wondering if Juan was going to take him off for Gabby, simply because you may have needed to make sure that you had 11 players on the field.
Yeah, and we were talking in the chat that it was not just in the defensive end where he draws that yellow, where he almost gets sent off, to your point, but really it was just I don't know, it was a very uneven game, especially from a guy who he wasn't featuring as much, in the preseason, where he comes in, kind of allowed some headers, especially for a guy of his height, you're thinking, okay, he's going to dominate the back line. Wasn't really quite the case. And even in the passing, we were talking in the chat, his pass percentage at the end of the game was 65%. And especially from someone on the back line, you expect that number to at least be at the worst, high 70s and the 80s at the low end, but it just wasn't a great overall performance. It's tough to see, right? I mean, there were some guys who he wasn't the only one for sure. I think Jose Andres Hernandez had a tough game. Like we said, he's going to lose in the physicality end. And but that's why he's in there for the passing, for those different changes, and he just didn't provide that. So really, when you have that, you're leaving Zambrano as that guy to do everything in the midfield. I think he had a very nice game. I actually saw he was the player on Rising who drew the most fouls, but also committed the most fouls. So he was kind of everywhere. He was that physical force that he's lived up to, that we've seen. But I think there were just some uneven performances. definitely want to hear from you, right? Because it sounds like you got some info from Juan about tactical changes, definitely kind of developing that. And yeah, would love to hear what he had to say.
Yeah, so this is specifically Juan talking about the tactical changes he made during the game. So that
Yes.
substitution, bringing on Uzo, bringing on Gabby Torres. Here's what he had to say.
You make the change there in the second half, bringing Gabby Torres on. What were you looking for the difference to be there, and what did you see out there?
Yeah, what I honestly wanted to play with two true wing backs on each side, right? Because in the second half, I saw Trevor on the side, and we had Emil Cuello on one side, and Traore on the other side. I was doing a good job, but he was starting to get tired. First game of the season, and after the 60th minute, the legs start getting very tired. And I wanted to make sure that we could stretch a full width of the field to create spaces inside for those inside channels, and that's what we looked for with Gabi and Uzo in the second half.
Yeah. I mean, what do you make of what Juan shared with you?
I think that, look, it was obvious that something needed to change, even just in a position there whereby I think even the body language of the players was pretty evident that something needed to change. I think it's quite telling that actually it's shortly after the substitution you see Gabby Torres getting involved in the goal. That's to me shows exactly that it worked. The plans for how he was going to use Torres in there definitely worked. And look, it's a tough one, right? Because I feel like the lineup that we saw today, in some ways, ignoring the just broader issues that there were with players being moved on, we probably would have said coming off of that last game that, look, Gabby Torres should be on the bench. He had a very poor friendly against GCU, and I think that's what we were all expecting. The thing is that he's also a very good player who gets involved in goals. We saw at the end of last season, he comes in with just a couple of games really at the end of the year, 4 or 5 games, and picks up a similar number of goals despite being a wing back. Well, hey, it's clearly worked, but I don't know. I mean, you never know. You never know. I mean, a lot of people are commenting in here, of course, about the fact that when you look at that, actually the subs that were made at that time, Darnell King was taken off. Of course, he came on in the first half for Aleph Mayor, who went off injured. Sounds like it was mostly precautionary. There's no real insight I can give at this point on how long or how serious this injury could be. It was very precautionary. He'd been feeling apparently a tightness, in the hotel prior to the game anyway, and so when that started, playing him up again a little bit during the game, they made the decision to just put him off, play it safe.
Yep. No, it makes sense. And I mean, talking a bit right about Darnell, it's a tough look because not only did he get subbed on, like you mentioned, but I believe you also reported that, I'm not sure if we saw on the broadcast, that he ended up taking over the captain's armband, if that's correct, at halftime.
Yeah, he did. And then it was handed back to Kev Lambert when Darnell was taken off. We do actually have as well some insight here. I know that people have been asking, a lot of people have been wondering what's going on with the captaincy. We've got a full breakdown of where things are. Also from Juan Guerra. Let's take a listen to that one now.
Love it.
Carlos got hurt. We're going to have a leadership group. I told the players, at the end of the day, we have a group full of leaders. But we're going to have a leadership group of 4 players that are going to be the 4 team captains. They're going to be Darnell King, Kev Lambert, Daniel Krustin, and Manuel Arteaga. And that's a group that was chosen by the staff and also by the players. I wanted to make sure that the players felt well represented and that the players had a voice on who they wanted to represent them. I told you guys this. To me, a captain has to be the right hand of the staff, has to be someone that is respected by the staff and by the players, and is someone that has a voice and can organize and can make sure that he represents the players well, but he also makes sure that he's holding everyone accountable.
And so does that mean that physical armband is going to be handed around between those 4 over the course of the season? Or?
No, well, at the end of the day, we all know that if Darnell King is on the field, he's our team captain. Then we have Kev, then we have Danny, and then Manu. So depending on who's on the field, we'll decide. They decide who wears it.
So yeah, that was Juan Guerra talking about the current situation with the captaincy. So it sounds like a little bit of a captaincy by committee There really.
Interesting. Yeah, it's I mean, it's an interesting one, right? I mean, especially given Darnell's playing or lack thereof, especially where he's going to be this season, kind of makes sense, especially when if he's on, he's the captain, but if not, giving it to Kev. I mean, that's maybe always a discussion, right, of like how we think Kev is the captain. And like, I personally, that's something that I mentioned earlier in the offseason. Like, even if it's based off of he's been here a while, he's got that longevity, he's in a prominent role, leading by example. I like that they have a committee, but it seems like he's going to be the guy because he's probably just going to be on the field most often. So it's good for Kev. I think that's something that I know a lot of the fans seeing the comments when the starting lineup got announced. That's something that they wanted to see. So good on him.
Yeah, I think, and look, it's something that Kev Lambert isn't necessarily going to be the vocal captain that some people may want. No, I don't get the feeling that he will be, but that doesn't mean that he can't contribute solidly as a player who inevitably gets a decent amount of respect just because of how long he's been here at this club, just how much, he means to this club, how much this club means to him. Of course, it's going to command respect because when you're around for he's been here since 2017. He came in partway through the 2017 season. When you're here for that long, especially in USL, players don't do that. Players just don't do that.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, as Michael's actually saying here in the chat, and I think it's a really good relevant point, is that Darnell also is someone who's always been looked at well in the locker room. A lot of people kind of pointed fingers at him last year, and I think some of that was unfair because I think that as a leader in the locker room among the boys, he's actually very well respected, very well liked, and sometimes things are outside of your control as a captain. I think that making sure that he's still able to provide that kind of leadership, still able to take an active role in the captaincy, even if he isn't necessarily the captain on the field on a day-to-day basis, just because he's not playing, not starting often some of these games. I think it's still the right move. You still want him to have that kind of leadership role, really.
No, absolutely, and that's cool. I mean, interesting decision, right? Where he comes on, comes off, like we kind of mentioned. Definitely something unconventional for sure, but no, I completely agree. Glad that they have a couple guys in there who are well respected. And speaking of well respected, we love our friends at Circle K because we love and respect them and what they do. Owen, I know they got Circle K's when you are across the country. Believe they have some in Charleston. I'm not a geography.
I have indeed, actually, on the way back to and from the stadium. I've seen a Circle K over here.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not a real estate expert, but I hear they got them out there. But we are so excited to partner with our friends at Circle K. Check them out for all the great things: coffee, beer, snacks, all that jazz. And to kick things off with them, we're teaming up for an amazing giveaway opportunity. Text PHNX to 31310. Again, that is PHNX to 31310 for an opportunity to win a $500 gas card. See show notes for details. And while you are grabbing your Circle K, you can grab Four Peaks there as well. Heard a lot of y'all were drinking Four Peaks when you were at Walter Station at the watch party. Apologies. Apparently, I owed a lot of people beer. What else is new? I wasn't here. I was
Max, you always owe people beer.
Apparently, which is that's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, glad everyone here drinking a lot of Four Peaks. I was drinking Four Peaks, drinking the Cool Beans. I actually said if we get to 20 likes, I will chug a Four Peaks. Offer still stands, even if it is with my pixelated ass. So you can still do it. Hit that like button. I will chug a Four Peaks. And with our friends at Four Peaks, they always have a lot of things going on. You already know the best place to spend St. Patrick's Day. It's there for 8th Street Pub. Hang with your favorite degenerates, which is us, and enjoy a darn good time. You must be 21 years or older to enjoy responsibly. We talked a lot about this game. If we're able to get into the numbers, if we have the graphic on there, and this is kind of something where I wanted to point out a few specific ones, right? So the goals, that tells a story, right? And then you have the possession, 53 to 47%. Here's where I'm gonna break it down for those that do not know the acronyms, which, I mean, they're kind of weird. Why would you? First one, the TOB, touches in opposition box. This one to me was very telling, and really that
I thought it was TOB.
That's Touches an
I don't
opponent.
know what's a TOB, Max.
Oh no, man. That's why I'm telling you. It's an acronym. It's an acronym, my guy. So you see touches an opponent's box 11-26 in favor of Charleston. And really, up until that 70th minute, that number for Rising was cut in half. It just was not there. Not a lot of threatening play in there. And then along the same lines, FTE final third entries. Charleston more than doubling that in Rising. Again, same type of thing, except for that last 20 minutes or so. It really just was not threatening. So it kind of shows you what this game was like. It really was something that was not end-to-end stuff. And I mean, it was just a dominant performance in a lot of ways by Charleston. Again, I'm kind of surprised by the result, but to me, those numbers really back it up that this was just something that Charleston controlled, especially when they had the goal. They were suffocating Rising with the press, and it's kind of just how it played out, man.
Yeah, you know what? I will just check this up from Michael at the moment here. Actually, this is also a very relevant stat, which is 3 shots on target, of which
efficiency 1 of 3, baby.
I mean, I'm not gonna say for certain because I'm not sure, but I feel like the other 2 came in very quick succession when they forced saves out of Trey Muse. Speaking of which, we did have the Dave Muse chat in the
yeah, I was waiting for it.
In the chat earlier. It's
ever since our
stalemate, guys.
Dude, ever since our show on Tuesday, every time they said Trey Muse, I was thinking about his dad. So there you go.
Rumor has it that because today's game ended in a draw, we will decide the winner of this game. PHNX Rising followers here in the chat, we must nominate a champion to fight Dave Muse. We would not, of course, recommend doing so, but hey, you can go along with it however you want. He'll fight someone on Twitter, probably, knowing him. He enjoys running his mouth. When Dollar Beer Night happens, things are going to take off. Well, if Charleston had been coming into Phoenix on a Dollar Beer Night, then yeah, I'm not gonna get into that one. But yeah, it was. Look, Rising was really not good at converting. I mean, even converting the final third entries into chances. Let's be clear here. I believe that Charleston had somewhere around, double the number of final third entries the Phoenix Rising did, but they had over triple the number of total shots on and off target. Okay. Charleston were creating chances out of those final third entries in a way that Phoenix Rising were not. Now, that's something that we've actually said quite a bit. I remember we were talking about it after the last friendly, which is that Phoenix Rising is not necessarily a team that will go up, that will play the tippy-tappy around the area, and that creates a chance. No, it comes from more, pretty much direct play, quick play within their model. It comes from finding someone who's making that run behind lines. That's where those chances all come from. And so it doesn't hugely surprise me that Rising was relatively inefficient. I mean, it doesn't hugely surprise me anyway, because you had a lot of people still trying to get used to each other. It's still going to happen. So, hey, hey, it's still a point. A point is a point. I said this earlier. A point is a point.
Points are great. You win them at home where you can, and you draw on the road. That's a good recipe for success, honestly, when you can. It does make me curious, right? Because we saw that it was a very difficult time playing at the back, which we've illustrated. Yet the goal, it wasn't, it was, let's call it what it is. It was more of the direct ball. It was more of the home run ball from Zambrano to Gabby Torres, who plays it across the 6 to Danny Trejo for a nice sliding tap in. That's something where we talked about of how far, and this, you can look at this in the context of a game, in the context of a season. How long do you play this out the back? And yes, I understand it's early. You want to build towards that. I'm all for it. But how long do you play that? And then we're finally like, okay, this is not working. We need to maybe not completely get away from it, but start mixing in more of an over-the-top strategy, keep the defense honest. What seemed to work. Do you think that is an effective strategy, or do you think this was more of an anomaly? We need to stay the course.
No, I feel as though what you're looking at there is ideally the goal is a perfect example of what Hunger is trying to do. It's what he's trying to see his team actually do. So it's not as though you're looking at a team here that just is seemingly, ignoring the idea that they can do that until that one time a day when they suddenly decide, oh yeah, we can do that. No. This is a team that is in some ways meant to carry out attacks like that, and they just aren't in the early exchanges in games. I mean, look, it was the start of the second half again. They were slow. I think it was something that came up last week with GCU. We mentioned it, and Juan mentioned it about how they were just a bit mentally slow, really. Coming out after the break, making adjustments to the adjustments their opposition have made. Because that's the thing, right? That first spell after the second half is a lot of it is kind of like chess, isn't it? Let's be real. One team's making their changes, the other team's making their changes, and then all of a sudden you have to work out how your changes mesh with their changes and what that means and what extra changes now you have to make again. And they were just a bit slow making those kind of changes. Look, it's not ideal. Look, I just they've got to start playing the way that, and I mean, after they made the subs, they played well for the spell after that. The question is why they weren't doing that for the 60, 65 minutes prior. Unfortunately, that can become a trend.
No, 100%. It's interesting, man. Yeah, I think, right, even like in the balls they're playing towards the first half, you saw that they were, once they were able to get a lot of the long balls, right, they were coming from the midfield. This wasn't just a let's hoof it long for the defense. And to me, that seemed a big strategy of they were trying to bypass levels. The defense can play it into attackers. The midfield can play it into attackers. But it wasn't just that 40, 50-yard ball of defense over the top, hope someone runs onto it. That's not what they're looking for. What they are looking for is it's that play of let's get it into the right players, break the defense, bypass the level, and then they're able to, either play it a bit short or play it over the top, something that is a bit more of a higher percentage. So we'll see what happens, man. I enjoy that goal came about, but yeah, we just gotta balance it. It's all about the balancing act.
It is. And I mean, again, look, I know a lot of people in here are saying the negatives now, and I get it. I get it, right? It does in some ways feel a little bit like last year in some of the ways that this went wrong. However, again, I will point to just look at the amount of injuries, look at the amount of issues this team has had in that regard, and look at how banged up they are, as well as how new they all are as teammates. And consider that. And here's the thing I will say on this. Phoenix Rising of last year, to me, I understand the issues that many issues of last year. And I understand that some of those issues may appear to be prevalent again now. The difference is, to me, that Phoenix Rising team last year would have lost this game.
Yep.
I think that the difference here is that this team, yes, they've got their flaws, but they're still grinding out a result. And at the end of the day, it's results like these kind of games here. You have to go to the East. You have to, ultimately try and get something out of these. You're not going to, I don't think you'd really turn down a point before this game. I really don't. No. Don't get me wrong. Did I think this team could have possibly, before, because I predicted a win, foolish me. But I just feel as though when you look at it in that sense, if you were offered a draw before the game, you'd probably taken it. Especially in all the circumstances, especially with the sheer amount of people who are absent, the sheer amount of people who, they're just still getting used to new roles on a new team. Yep. I think you'd take the point. Yeah, I don't know. Yep. What does the chat think? Does the chat think that we'd have taken the point? I mean,
no. So it's
kind of here with the chance out.
Chance out. Yeah. No, we were talking earlier.
Could make it for 23 without one of them at least.
Surely. Oh dear gosh. No, we were even talking earlier when we were before we came back. Is with chat that a lot of them were saying like, a point's a point. They can have the same resolve as like things were by no means perfect. But again, we got the point. It's something that this game could have lost. If you like, I see my chat, it's a good result. Realistically, if you look at how this game gone, I really think this was a game that the way they played, they should have lost. And yet good teams find a way to get a result even when they're not playing well. And that's what they did. And I'm not trying to be an energy vampire. I don't know if that's directed to me or Owen, but no, I think that this is something that's a solid point. Again, if you're able to get a point on the road and 3 points at home, ideally that average, it's what you're looking to shoot for. But there's some things this team has to be cleaned up. And listen, I'd rather be critical where I can be, knowing that I know this team is capable of getting better and improving, especially because these things that are fundamentally different than how probably a lot of these players, possibly have been playing. That out of the back is not something that happens overnight. As Owen says, a point's a point. Devin, I'm right there with you. It's a slow build, something that we don't rely on over the top, and we'll get there. Like, this is something where you can see the combination play, and then you can see when everything clicks into motion. That goal came out of nowhere, but like, that's how that happens on a more frequent basis as the team is further drilled in. Like, honestly, the way this game went, optimistic when you look at it from that spin.
Yeah. Look, again, it's moments of quality. The challenge now is to take moments of quality and turn them into a game of quality.
No, that's exactly
the challenge.
That's exactly it. No, it really is. Quality is the name of the game. And speaking of quality, our friends at OG's Brands are pretty high quality themselves. His official, they got the new strawberries and cream, the Happy Balance gummies. It seems like, both teams are kind of taking those gummies, to start the game. Not really, we're not throwing out accusations here, but just the way they played, maybe it was a little bit of ease on it, maybe a bit of calmness, a bit of happy balance, if you will, playing out the back and whatnot. But, it is live on the shelves. You can find them at your local dispensary. The gummies, not players, just to clarify there. Find your local dispensary by check ogsbrands.com. That is OGEEZ brands.com. You must be 21 years or older to enjoy. And while you're taking OG's Brands, you can rock some Bad Birdie, just like I am with my hat, as you can clearly see through my screen, which is not pixelated at all whatsoever. They got all kinds of great stuff, new polos, new designs, golf patterns, all that stuff. Very light and breathable. Even this hat, it's breathable indoors here, and it's kind of steamy in the house. That's probably why my Wi-Fi is going. But hey, you can use code PHNXBB15 for 15% off your next order at badbirdiegolf.com. All right, man. Yeah, we covered a lot of things, but yes, it sounds like you're trying to say something. Did I cut you off? Oh, fantastic. Oh, you're laughing. Should call the show OG. Jesus, goodness gracious.
The problem is it's not wrong.
I mean, dude, I'm gonna be honest, that's really
that's
good.
That's good. I'll give him that one. That's good.
Edward, we might have to borrow that one.
For those of you who are listening on audio, you just need to read out the comment. But Edward Cunningham here, people may know of a prior Twitter account, said should call the show OJ and Simpson. Of course, being good. Max Simpson and my first two initials being OJ. So
it's great for SEO. I love that. That's really good for SEO. Bad for the public eye, but great for SEO. Oh my word. Well, Edward, thank you.
We've got to take the positives from a day like this.
Oh, dear gosh. Well, I mean, man, speaking of positives, we do want to make sure that we're highlighting, some people, right? We start with Kev Lambert and, getting the captain's armband. I want to make sure we highlight some of the other individuals we thought played a pretty robust game. And I know, like Danny Trejo, that's one that we'll put a little more shine on in just a second. But anyone outside of the goal for himself who you thought, hey, had a really good game, a solid game, especially one maybe in their first regular season match in a Rising uniform.
Rocco Rios Nova. I mean, it's the obvious choice. It's the obvious choice.
It is.
He was by far, made some very good saves in that game. And I don't know. I mean, beyond that, it was rough. I feel there were moments again of quality. I think that Fede Varela put the one ball in that realistically Emi Cuellar or Manuel Arteaga should have buried. That's the reality of the fact that they should have buried that. I mean, Kev was shaky actually. Pat making a very good point. Kev was shaky. really shaky.
Yeah.
Really shaky.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. I feel as though as a team performance and as a full game performance,
Yeah.
it was sufficiently lacking that I don't know if I'd really pinpoint too many others besides, of course, the goal scorer, the goalkeeper who ultimately managed to keep rising in this game for long periods of time. I don't know who else. I mean, I'll just shout out Tobo, Efatobo, Aro, who came on off the bench. This kid, Barca Academy, and first thing he does is he commits a foul jumping into a guy. Like,
Yeah.
talk about not being
Tone
scared
setter.
as a
Yeah.
as a kid, right?
Yeah.
Talk about not being intimidated by the professional game. I that to me just impressed me. Don't get me wrong, he gave away a free kick in a dangerous position. Maybe I wouldn't have been saying this if that free kick had turned out differently,
Yeah.
but they got away with it. So to me, I think I like it. I like to see him just get stuck in that way. And I mean, I'm glad to see the fact that the youth is generally, I think, being trusted by Juan in a way that
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't in the past. Now, admittedly, look, I did ask Juan about that, and he said it's kind of a bit of both. It's trust and it's necessity. It's necessity. So yeah, I'm glad to see him out there. I'm glad to see the fact that he got a few minutes at the end, and he got a few minutes in a game that ultimately ended with a draw. Could have been a lot worse. So yeah, I'm glad. Hopefully it does his confidence some good, and hopefully we can see him get more involved through the course of the year.
No, 100%. I mean, right. They were noting it on the broadcast that, like, hey, due to injuries and everything, it's quite the young bench that they had on there, especially being in that late of a game, especially knowing the circumstance, to have that trust and understanding of you're bringing on a guy like that. That's impressive. And it shows that, hey, Juan wants to play the young guys, believe in them, and you go from there. That's a good shout. I got two others, maybe flying a bit on the radar. First one, Renzo Zambrano. I mentioned him earlier, right? Tone setter guy, committed the most fouls, drew the most fouls as well.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you, Max.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is where my slight issue with that one is. I think that Zambrano was lucky to an extent to get away with the not getting the persistent infringement card earlier.
Yeah. No, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is the thing to me where I agree that he was lucky, and Mo Traore was also lucky. The difference with me, right, is like nothing happened. Now with Mo Traore, he was lucky that he didn't get sent off, but also he didn't really have a great game regardless. Zambrano, if he got sent off, this is a different situation. Maybe I'm not as high on him, but the fact that he didn't, he was on. He played well, had that nice ball over the top that was essentially the assist for the goal. It was by no means the perfect game, and yeah, he got lucky, but I mean, shoot, man, better lucky than good. So I liked his play, a bit over aggressive at times, but that's something where I want that enforcer, especially when he's paired with Jose Andres Hernandez, where you need it with him. So it would be just being that he's going to lose that physicality battle. So I like that shout. And then the other one, Emil Cuello, it's something where he didn't score on this play, but the chance in the first half where that was a 30-yard sprint from the heart of midfield where Fede plays that ball over the top, comes out of absolutely nowhere from on your screen and almost buries that. A bit of a heavy touch, but I think that's just something where when he's able to click on, that's the type of player who, he can really make some magic.
Yeah. I think I can see that. I've been high on Cuello's stocks for a while.
Yeah.
I think that I was quite impressed with what I saw from him in preseason, especially because I wasn't necessarily expecting a whole lot out of him in preseason. But we saw what we saw, and I'm relatively pleased with him. I feel as though, I put the credit really on that one to Varela just for picking him out. But I mean,
it wasn't that touch for sure.
Cuello's also going to get the difference, of course, being Cuello. Should he have taken it away? I mean, I feel like that's more on Manu not getting the follow-up. for me there. I kind
Yeah.
of get the first one being saved, but that follow-up, you've got to take that away. That was like the only chance of any real note that Phoenix
Yeah.
Rising had in the first 45 minutes. And
Well, and I mean, listen, while we're on the topic of some players who did not perform well individually, that was honestly really one of the only times I heard his name called was when he missed that. Like, he was invisible this game, absolutely invisible for the way he played. You need a guy who's going to be able to hold the ball up top and be physical up there.
I don't know if that's quite fair.
You don't think so?
I don't think he was invisible. I did see him getting stuck in quite a bit. But I don't know. It was an interesting one. I think what didn't help is you also had a little element, right, of Danny Trejo was playing out wide, and yet at the same time, he's not a defender. It's almost like you get to that point of like too many cooks. And I think that the way they were rotating around at times as well in the attack was a bit
suspect. No, I mean, I get it. It's something that it's gonna take time to develop, but I think even in his role, I know that they want to be the guy who, he holds up plays, that physical presence, but they're not looking for him to necessarily be the playmaker. So it's I get what you're saying. I think to me it's just tough still, where I think he just didn't have fantastic hold-up play. Yes, the distribution wasn't always the greatest, but I think he could have made a little bit more work of it when he was up there. Again, these things take time. It's dealing with the offense, but I don't think he did himself any favors with that one. But again, he's our only true number 9 up there that fits the profile, so we're gonna
Liam Mullins is a number 9.
Yeah.
He's a number 9. I mean, he's a kid, but he's a number 9. I think Arteaga is going to get a long leash, at least in the near term. So we'll see what happens, but that's my perspective. Anyone else who you kind of thought that, I don't know, didn't cover themselves in glory that we didn't talk about already? Not necessarily in any individual now I'd specifically point to beyond the ones we've covered. I mean, we spoke about Kev Lambert's issues in playing the ball out of the back. That one surprised me. That surprised me more than anything. It wasn't that it's not an indictment on his game in the big picture, his game. It was an indictment of what was a fairly poor performance from him today. We know that he can pass out of the back better than that. We've seen him do it many, many times over the years, and he just didn't get it done today. I don't know why. I don't think any of us will know why. It's probably a little bit of getting used to the new position, probably a little bit of just getting used to the people around him as well. But tough to say. And then, yeah, I don't think there's really much else in terms of people on the negative side to talk about. But of course, we got one more on the positive side.
Yes, sir. Yeah, let's put some shine on our DraftKings king of the game, the one, the only Mr. Danny Trejo, an obvious one, right? Call what it is. Goal scorer, made the difference. 6 dribbles, and not just even the ones he didn't complete. He's just a fun player to watch. I mean, especially with the hype and everything built around it. You just see that, like, man, if he's going to dribble at someone, he's going to lose the ball a handful of times. I honestly want to see that, because you want to see individual players make a difference in this sport, and especially in this league. And if he can go at defenders, yeah, he might lose out on a couple of those occasions, but when he wins, man, it's pretty. And he is a fearless guy. He will dribble at 1, 2, 3 defenders. There was a point in the first half where I swear he was surrounded by legitimately 4 defenders and still tried to take him. Maybe there, the judgment and stuff like that will continue to come up, but I absolutely love his willingness to go at people, and also really, decent pressing, especially where it wasn't always in Charleston's defensive half. And when it was, he had some good hustle up there, tracked back well as well. So all in all, really overall good game by the debuting for Phoenix Rising, Mr. Danny Trejo. And of course, want to shine him as our DraftKings king of the game. And you can get down on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. That was a very Derek Montilla phrase for those of you who listen to D-backs. Get down on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. That was weird. Anyway, use code PHNX. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly only at the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details. We appreciate y'all hanging with us, doing our thing. We always got good content, good things happening, especially.
We still got to talk a bit more about Trejo, actually. I've got a couple of things to add here.
Of course.
So number one is that actually I was having a fun chat with the media guy with Charleston before the game, and he was telling me about how last year they played a certain team from Las Vegas, and guess who scored a brace against them in that game?
Gee, I wonder.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
And there we go. He's scored again today. So that is in 2 games at Patriots Point. He has scored 3 goals. So he tells me he likes it. Yeah, we'll also... I've got actually some video from Danny that we can take a look at from just a few bits of clips from after the game.
Yeah, it feels very good. It's the first game. Very happy to get my first goal. But, it shows the hard work from the team and all the hard work we're putting all together. And it was a good goal for me and for the team.
We saw you playing a couple of different roles today. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think right now we're having some injuries, so I'm having to step up. Obviously, being able to play in the different positions, I'm a player that could adapt. So, anywhere that I can help the team, anywhere where my coach needs me, I'm going to be there and try to help the team.
And then just getting a point here on the road to start the season off, does it feel like a point gained or 2 points dropped?
I feel like every time for us, we want to win the game. So obviously, it's a point in the road, so we'll take it. But definitely, we feel like we should have won the game. But we look forward to the next one, and we try to get the win in the next one.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add. That was that was pretty well pretty well said. No, it's I think it's right. Like, he seems a guy who, for all the offensive flash and everything like that, definitely gonna be a guy, team player. Again, track back a lot more than I thought I was expecting, just because he's gonna be that creative guy. So props to him, and it's gonna be cool to see what his profile keeps building for this club.
Look, he scored on his proper debut for the team.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Can't ask for much more. Yeah.
Can't complain. Look, they brought Danny Trejo in to score goals. Yeah. And what has he done?
Did that.
First game, he scores a goal.
Scores a goal. Awesome. I love that. Well, we've gotten great content from Coach, from Danny. Did hear, I think you had one more about Carlitos.
Yeah. We have actually had some people in here questioning about that. Was one a little bit further back, with Devin asking, why do they hold up an Anguiano jersey?
That was a good question. Yeah, good question.
After the goal. Here is the update on Carlitos.
Carlos got hurt last week in training, and Carlos is a guy that Carlos is one of the players that excels at being a good teammate, that excels at understanding what it is to represent an organization like Phoenix Rising. And is a kid that shows up to work every single day, ready to work, and gives you his best. Whether he's playing 90 minutes, whether he's playing 2 minutes, or he's not playing, he's always showing up. And he got hurt after a very good preseason that he's had. I said last week that Carlos had been, in my opinion, one of our top 3 players in preseason. And, we all felt it, because he should have been here with us today. So the boys, we talked before the game, and we said that we're going to make sure we put in a good performance for Carlos today.
Any idea how long he'll be out for?
We'll see. We're still waiting for some net updates, but we'll probably, you guys are going to find out next week.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't want to be in the business of speculating, but it's it definitely doesn't seem upbeat. It's tough, especially given after the performance and how he's been rated by the club. So very nice gesture from Danny Trejo after he scored. Again, we'll keep you all updated, and I'm sure the team will put out something, give analysis whenever that comes out. But definitely tough to see. Tough to see with that. That's all I got for that one.
Yeah, it's not ideal, especially compounding in an already rough injury kind of spell for the club, but also for Carlos himself. I think that as a player, there was some hope that this
Yeah.
year could be maybe a little bit different than last year for him. When last year he didn't really do very much. He didn't feature a lot for the team, and there was the hope that maybe this year we'd see things a little bit differently. But I don't know. It doesn't sound the most positive. Let's put it that
No,
way.
no,
We'll have to wait for the update, but not sounding
not
great.
not ideal. Well, we'll keep you all posted on that. Yeah, we covered a lot today, guys. Do want to just let you know, right? For about a little less than 2 weeks from now, we got our next PHNX tea party. Going to be at Dobson Ranch. It's live Friday, March 24th. Join us for a night of golf, food, drinks, contests, prizes, everything like that. Our PHNX crew is going to be doing a watch party against the Sacramento Kings. Check the link in our show notes to reserve your spot today. If you're a diehard, check Discord for your exclusive discount link for 20% off. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be out there. I have not been promising people beer, but of course, somehow that'll catch up.
Max is going to buy you a beer.
All right, yeah, I'll buy. Whatever.
Come
Come
there
out.
we go. He said it. There we go.
Come on out. Enjoy. Play me in ping pong. You'll lose. You won't. See, you won't. But come out and have a good time. All that jazz. Mr. Owain Evans, what? I think we got everything today. I think we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll be joining you guys next Tuesday, or excuse me, not next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday for our usual 6 p.m. slot. And then the team is going to be back out at things. They're playing San Diego Loyal on Sunday, the 19th, kickoff at 3 p.m. Arizona time. So that's going to be a fun one. Remember, they play Loyal. They're then off the next week, and then they have their home opener again against Loyal again, April 1st. It's around the corner, baby. We are almost there. Let's go. Let's go. 3 weeks from today, we'll be doing a recap of Phoenix Rising's home opener. Let's go. That's amazing.
Not at this time, because they'll still be playing at this time.
Okay, whatever. Not a time. Anyway, all right, that's on that note. Let's get the heck out of here. For PHNX Rising Podcast, I am the pixelated Mr. Max Simpson. You can find me on Twitter at Max David Simpson. You can find Mr. Owain Evans at OJ Evans 18. Together we are OJ and Simpson. Dear gosh.
As Max is brought to you by the nearest potato to film him.
Dear. All right. Good night, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Peace.